Have you ever been after something, chasing some form of success, and you get there only to realize it isn't all it's cracked up to be? Sometimes you reach the highest level of your career, of a certain station in life, but you still don't feel free. That job, that relationship, that income level that you thought you needed to feel better, and you get there, but you just feel flat. Well, what if what you're actually searching for isn't more time, money, or freedom on paper, but something deeper that starts within you? And it's something that might be closer than you think. Welcome to Change Made Easy. Changing your habits, routines, and behaviors is hard. We make it easy. I'm Paul Leviton, and I help high achievers like you who feel stuck to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Traditional self-help doesn't work. It's either too rigid, too generic, or too overwhelming. My approach is different. I simplify change by making it so easy it can't not happen. Using my easier framework, I'll help you create habits, routines, and behaviors that stick, so you can stop struggling and start thriving. It's that easy. Today, my guest is Ashley Krooks. Ashley is a nervous system expert, a somatic coach, and a speaker who's traveled to over 75 countries while building a thriving business. She's helped hundreds of people rewire their stress response, end self-sabotage, and find a version of success that actually feels good for them from the inside out. And today she's here to discuss what she calls internal freedom, what it means and how to find it even when life feels like it's weighing you down at every turn. In this episode, you'll hear how on paper, Ashley had it all: money, travel, freedom, but she still felt stuck, stressed, and disconnected. And you'll hear how she changed all of that, finding her internal and external freedom in the process. Listen up for Ashley's breakdown of what it means to be a, quote, prisoner of your own mind, even when your life looks perfect on the outside to everyone else. Ashley shares a powerful mindset shift around money that will completely change how and why you chase success. And you'll learn how to tell whether you're operating from survival energy or expansion. She also offers a simple tool that you can use today to start to understand your body and why you do what you do. So if you've ever felt like you're doing everything right, but still don't feel like you've achieved the freedom you're after, this is the conversation you've been waiting for. Now let's dive in. We hear people talk a lot about financial freedom, but what is internal freedom?
Hmm. Great question. So, for me, really internal freedom is, do you actually feel free on the inside? Are you able to feel free in your mind and your emotions and your body and your spirit? Like, how do you actually feel? Because financial freedom and other external freedoms are big things that are talked about. But ultimately, I found in my own journey that none of that really matters. I mean, obviously, it's very nice to have regardless, but if you don't have the internal freedom and if you're not actually feeling free on the inside, and then once you're able, and I can go more into this if you'd like, but I'm sure we will, but once you can actually feel free on the inside, then your external reality can really start to reflect that, and you can enjoy all of those external freedoms so much more.
Yeah, I definitely want to go deeper into that. Could you expand a little bit about what does that really mean in terms of what does that feel like? Because I'm sure that to me it sounds nice. Like, okay, I get what you're saying. Freedom is always good, right? So internal freedom. But what is it actually that I'm looking for, and how do I know when I have it?
Yeah. So the best way to explain it, I think, would really be to share a piece of my story where basically I had all the financial freedom, the location freedom, the time freedom, the lifestyle freedom, all these different types of freedoms, but I actually didn't feel free at all. If you looked at my life from the outside, I was traveling the world. I was spending every single day with my partner, now husband. And I had this great business that ran on automation and it was bringing me a lot of money. And on paper, my life looked absolutely amazing and really free. But on the inside, I didn't feel free at all. My mind was constantly running in thoughts. I was caught up in what would go wrong, what someone else would think, what the next strategy for my business was. What if I said that differently on a client call or whatever it might be? And I was basically keeping myself like a prisoner of my mind. I couldn't let in all of the external freedoms and the success and the life that I've created. And so that's what I mean by not really feeling internally free. And so I would say throughout my own journey of really discovering what internal freedom is and rewiring my nervous system to be able to actually hold it, internal freedom is really, it's going to be different for each person, but really deciding like how do you actually want those freedoms to feel? Like what do you want it to feel like for you? What makes you feel free? And can you quiet your mind and actually be in the moment? Like I would be at these amazing sites all over the world and I was physically there, but mentally my mind was racing and I was anywhere but. And so being able to be internally free is, to me at least, is being able to really be present and soak up the moments that matter and be able to let the success and the external freedoms that I've created land and actually feel good and take it all in. Is such a big piece to really feeling that internal freedom and being able to be yourself and self express and feeling that joy within yourself inside and out, and really feeling secure in yourself, I would say, is a big piece in what you've created.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I think it's always interesting to hear from people who have had all of the outward trappings of success and say, it's not all it's cracked up to be. And we hear this over and over and over from movie stars to billionaires to entrepreneurs who say, I thought everything would be different when I had this much money in my bank. Then I had that much money in my bank and there was still something missing. And I think for people who don't have that, the easy thing to feel, because I know myself, if I feel this way, and I'm sure people listening do, is just like, yeah, but I'll figure that out myself when I get there. It's like, yeah, money isn't that great, but like, let me decide for myself when my bank account is full of it rather than right now. So how do we get to help people? I know that that's something that you do, is you're in the helping profession, just like I am. How can you help people come to this realization without having to go on the same journey that you took yourself?
Hmm. Such a great question. Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest lies that we're told about success is that, right, we'll be happy when, once we have the money in the bank account, once we have this success, everything will be okay, will be great. And that was a big trap I fell into. But ultimately, what we don't realize is that we're still us, even when we have that success. And I'm not denying that money isn't great. And money's provided me so many things and so many of the resources that I've had to really heal myself as well, and amazing experiences. And so, by all means, like go after the money if you want the money. But I will say you're still the same person and money only amplifies you. So while you're going after the success, the money that you want to create, it's ultimately checking in. Like, how do you feel along the journey? How do you ultimately feel each day? How do you feel about yourself? Because when you have all that money, again, you're still just you. Start finding the enjoyment in your life. Start really doing that work that's going to fuel you to really be able to appreciate it later on, and just start to notice, okay, but now how do I feel? And are there ways that I could maybe shift how I'm feeling now? And are there ways that I could enjoy my life more now? Because once I have the money, I'll be able to do all these things. But how can I make sure like I actually enjoy them? And so start really building that muscle now.
Hey, real quick, we'll be back to the show in just a few seconds, but right now I have to ask you for a huge favor. If you're getting value out of this episode so far, take 2 seconds and share it with a friend. I mean, right now, literally, hit the little share button and send it in a text to your roommate or your cousin or your mom or your brother or your sister. Seriously, spread the love. If you like what you're hearing, then that's the best way that you can show support for this show. Because maybe you're like Eliza Kay, who said, "This podcast is both warm and inviting, but real enough to push and motivate me." Or you're like Dalton, who said, "Paul is an amazing host, and his podcast is a must listen." Don't you want to share this awesomeness with your friends and family? Don't be a gatekeeper. It only takes a second. It helps me grow and reach a new audience, and you seem like a genius friend who recommends new, awesome podcasts. We all win. All right, go send that text, and now let's get back to the show. Yeah, I love the thought that money just amplifies who you are already. It's a big shift from, I think, what a lot of people assume, which is that like everything will be different when I have money. And I think when people say that, it's like they're thinking about their circumstances. It's like when I have money, I won't have so much stress. I won't have this. But what's kind of subtly implied there is that I'll be different too. As you said, for yourself, you were super stressed about your business. You're catastrophizing, my words, not yours, but you're doing all these different things. And then you got the money, and it's like all of that stuff is still running in the background. The programming that got you here doesn't just turn off when you hit that milestone. So what are some of the things that you had to let go of from your old life in order to move into this new version of yourself?
Mm. So many things. One in particularly was really the idea that I was receiving so much love and validation from the success that I was having. And as much as I was doing it because I wanted to create a life, it felt really good to have other people saying how great I was, or reflecting back how much success I had, even though I couldn't let it in. And so, one really big piece that I had to let go of was that chasing for accomplishments, and was thinking, okay, if it's not this thing, maybe the next milestone will make me feel better. Maybe the next one will make me feel better. And really recognizing, well, no, like it's again, it's me, and I have to shift internally. And so, letting go of that piece was really big, and letting go also of the hold on the external things in our society. All of the external successes and money and all these things are so praised and considered so necessary for so many of us in life. And being able to really detach from the goals, being able to detach from what these things meant for me, was such a big piece, so that I could ultimately really rewire what my definition of success was, which had been so conditioned into me throughout my whole life. I mean, it was like, if I got a 98, well, why didn't I get an 100? And I was always pushing for more and more. And so being able to really rewire that and be like, well, what actually is success to me? Like, what would waking up each day feeling successful feel like? And get really clear on that. And within all of that, I really had to let go of a big piece of my identity. I knew so much of who I was from always, again, striving, achieving, from working, from doing. And there was so much that I had to let go of to really even trust and to be okay with, no, I'm enough. Like, just being me is enough. And it's okay if I'm not always trying to do more or get more. And that I'm worthy just as I am. And that was a huge rewiring for me to go through as well.
It's a beautiful place to land at. And as you said, so much of this is this programming that our society, our parents, our teachers,
Mhm.
everyone's told, right? And it's more even so than that, hardwired into us from evolution of striving and status
Totally.
games and things like that. So it makes sense why we get swept up in that. But for you who, had it, you made it to the top of the mountain, so to speak.
Mhm.
What does your life look like now on the back half of that?
Mhm. So my life, I would say, on the outside actually doesn't look so much different to the outside person. I've actually been traveling still for these last 8 years. And the difference is that I'm actually able to enjoy it. And I'm actually able to, I've formulated a relationship with myself where I really love myself and I really feel connected to myself. And I'm able to let the good in and to be present and to really take in everything that I've created and actually feel it. And I would say there has been less striving for more, and really instead of connecting to that striving or thinking that it's an external thing that's going to get me what I want, my career path has more shifted to something more deeper and more purposeful that I feel like is where I feel really fulfilled, and that's become the priority. Is not I'm not going to lie and say, right, money still is important. We still want to live a certain lifestyle, but really ultimately thinking like, but what really makes me fulfilled? What gets me excited to get up out of bed each day? And having the tools to work with myself if I ever feel like taken off course, or feel like I'm getting caught up in old patterns as well. And so I would say those are really the biggest shifts, is really moving into something that's really fulfilling for me, and that being the priority, and that being what leads me over just like the promise of more money or more success or whatever that might be. And then just how I feel about everything within it.
I think what's cool to me is that what you didn't say is that yeah, I gave up all that stuff and now I just live like with the bare minimum and I realize I don't need money and all this other stuff, which is, I think how a lot of people think that that's the answer. It's like, oh, well, if like money isn't the answer, then we have to live like a monk and just
Mhm.
be minimalist and all this other things. And it's like, I think that that's a fine, valid answer if that's where your path takes you. But I think it's cool that you said it's like, well, not much actually changed. I'm still doing the traveling. I'm still having the experiences. I'm still making the money and spending the money. It's just the way that I feel in those moments is different. And it sounds like to me that it's less of the what that changed for you, but more of the why or the intention behind it.
Yeah, and I love that you pointed this out because I think that's one of the biggest things that just one of really the biggest things to bring up is that money itself is neutral. Like money is just money, but really everything in life is just how we're perceiving it. And so how are we viewing it? And so we can make money bad and feel like, okay, I don't need this at all and I have to go become a monk or do these things. And I certainly did think about going to Bali and just soul searching and giving it all away or living on a farm thinking that would be easier. But ultimately with that too is our nervous systems, I mean, the world is a mirror to our nervous system. So if we don't actually do the internal work and we just say money's the problem, we're still going to feel a lot of the same ways that we're feeling even with the money without it. So that's not, I don't believe that that is the solution. I think it's really, yeah, how can we look at how we're perceiving things? How can we look at our relationship to money? How can we look at our relationships to success? And then from that, do the internal work to shift it so that yeah, we can still have the life that we want to create, but we can have it in a way that feels really good for us without having to give up whatever other things we value as well.
So, how do we strive for more while detaching ourselves from the need to actually receive that benefit or whatever comes at the end of it? Because striving is still, like
Mhm.
you said, we still want to make the money, we still want to be successful, and I think striving is an important part of the human condition, because the opposite of that is just being a lump on the couch and just Netflixing out for 8 hours a day, which is very tempting to do. That's what technology is here for, is trying to drain us of everything.
Right.
So how do you balance that of like, yeah, I still want to be this high level person, but not one who's driven by those desires?
Mhm. I think it's a striving at what cost? Are we just striving so that we can have those desires and we're pushing ourselves outside of what our bodies are telling us and pushing ourselves outside of what feels good just so that we can have those things? Or is it really prioritizing? We're prioritizing first off the money, right? We're not denying that the money, the striving is important, but what's prioritized? So is the work more important? So for me, it's like the fulfillment is more important, and then the money comes through showing up in service, the money then comes. But I'm more prioritizing like, ooh, what feels really good for me to serve with today and to give and to know that I feel really good about it and knowing that that's a match for a certain amount of money as well. And then with that too is really understanding what are our drivers and like getting clear on that. So not only the purpose of why we're moving, but also again, like how is this making me feel, and trusting my body. Like, okay, does this feels like I'm pushing myself now. So, okay, I'm going to stop. Whereas before I would keep pushing myself forward. Does this feel good for me to sit and work on this thing right now, or does it not? And again, really allowing our own inner guidance system to guide us more than the external factors, more than the money, more than the success, and consistently coming back to how it feels for us and for me. And we've really been so conditioned that everything has to be hustle and has to be go and mode and all these things, but there's so many ways that we can create and that we can give through this world that's really actually energy rich for us, that it actually feels so good to serve. Because like you mentioned, like we are wired for progress, and so we want to keep progressing, but we ultimately want to do it in a way that feels really good for us, and that's coming from a more energy rich place versus coming from a survival place. So I really like to check in and see like, okay, where am I coming from right now? Is this coming from survival, like I have to get this done so I can make the money so I could be okay? Or is this coming from a place that's like, ooh, this feels really good for me to show up right now. Like I'm really inspired, even like source or moving through me, just feeling the energy of it, and it's energy rich. And so, okay, from here, I'm going to move, and really checking in with that, I think is a really key piece to it as well.
I think I would agree with that. And I think that, so you mentioned a few times listening to your body and being able to check in with yourself. And this is one of those things that I talk about a lot on here, as I call like what a meta skill, the skills that kind of underpin the rest of the skills. And I think so many people are so disconnected from their body. Like you said, like we feel like stress or pressure and we're like, okay, that's good because like that means that I'm
Mhm.
being pushed forward. How do you start to understand what your body is telling you when again we've been so numbed out, so many of us, for so long with drugs, alcohol, but even just phones and just being disconnected and ignoring our feelings? How do you start to change that relationship with your body?
This was a really big one for me because I used to be so caught in my head that I didn't even know what my body was thinking. Like if someone said, "How do you feel?" I'd be like, "Well, I think I feel like this." Like I couldn't even actually articulate how I felt. And so I do believe it's a process because we are so wired to be in our heads, and a lot of us do disassociate from our bodies for safety, for numbing, for a lot of different reasons that we've, again, been conditioned to throughout our life. And I think it's really taking the time to pause and to come back to your body. One of my favorite ways, and one of the ways that I was first introduced to coming into the body, it was through a body scan, and just really taking the time. And I actually offer a free guided body scan because I'm so passionate about it. And it's, just really tracking your body, like from your feet and feeling your feet, and then going up to your ankles and to your legs and all the way up through your head, and really feeling where your body's actually at, getting familiar with the sensations that are present there or not, and just starting to notice where your baseline is. And if you keep doing this, you'll start to build that relationship more with your body. And even just instead of shutting off the signals, like when you notice that your body's starting to get stressed, you're starting to feel a certain way, just pause and notice it, instead of like going to do whatever action you think it's doing, or going to numb it out on your phone or through alcohol or drugs or whatever it might be. Just noticing and pausing with those sensations can be so big to just start to build that relationship. And then from there, you can work on like what to actually do with those sensations. But just that listening and that initial pause is going to be so huge.
Yeah, the pause is one of the first skills I work with all of my clients on, and it's funny to call that a skill, but that's really what it is because we're
Yeah.
just go 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 all the time. I love the idea of the body scan. I'll definitely include the link to that in the show notes for anyone listening who wants to check out that free resource, because the body scan is a very powerful tool. I appreciate you offering that up as a resource for listeners. I'm curious. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here. It's a little bit out of the blue, but I know about something I know about you is that you do a lot of traveling. You've talked about it a little, but you've been to over 60 countries, which is a massive, massively cool thing, I guess I'll say. So I'm just curious, what have you learned throughout your travels?
Oh, so much. And I'll just add a little plug for myself here. I've actually been to 75, but but 60 while building my business. So I know that's how I talk about it. But yeah, I've learned so much. I think travel is really one of the best ways that we can learn about ourselves and really see who we are, by placing ourselves in these environments that we've never been in before, that we kind of get to try on these new identities, or we get to just see how we act in different circumstances. And it's been one of the best ways that I've been able to learn about myself. And I think, too, another really big piece is through going to so many different countries, and to touch on what we were speaking about earlier is, you really see like what's actually required for fulfillment and for a happy life. And in the US, it's so fixated on those external successes, on money, on all those pieces. But ultimately, when you go to so many of these other countries, they have so much less than us, yet you see how they interact and how happy they are and how connected they are, and the importance of the family unit, or the importance of the community and what they do for each other, and the joy that they have. And it's just been such a great reminder for me on my own journey with everything that I was sharing previously, of just how you really don't need that much. Like how you ultimately can, like, are you focusing on the micro moments in your life, the really important things, the relationships that you have, the day to day? And can you find the joy in that? And from that, you can create amazing lives. And being able to meet people from all over the world that have done that has been such a key thing for me, and a really big piece that I've really learned and taken in along the way.
I appreciate that a lot. Thank you for sharing. And you mentioned right there being able to hone in on the micro moments and what really is actually important. So, what's important right now for you?
Well, we're expecting our first child. So, thank you. Thank you. So, that's been really exciting. And so, definitely just really taking the time to enjoy these last few months with my husband and to really be able to be present with him and for us to get everything ready for our baby that's coming has been such a big piece to set myself up. I do plan on taking time off as well for my business. So, to be figuring that out and implementing everything for that has been really important. And just really transitioning to this settling down life. We've been traveling for the last 8 years. And so now we're starting to actually settle down and into completely new roles. So, really starting to embrace that and move on to that next chapter are definitely big things that I've been thinking about these days.
That's amazing. Congratulations to you and your husband. That's very exciting. Your new growing family. A lot of change is happening clearly for you, and that's always the topic here. And I'm curious now, maybe you have a different perspective because you have a baby coming and you're in a new phase of your life, but what's the change that you want to see in the world?
Hmm. I think it would be so amazing, really, if everyone, like starting in their childhood, if we all were taught emotional intelligence and nervous system regulation. I think that that would truly change the entire world and how it is. And because right now, what we don't realize and recognize is so many people were just adults operating as little kids, and the way people show up, the way people allow things to affect them, the way people don't, for lack of a better term, don't always take responsibility for things. And I think that if people really did this deep work as a child and they started to learn it, and even just seeing everything that it's done in my life is just, I mean, people would be able to be so much happier, so much kinder, so much more self aware, so much more introspective, to where I think that the way people, I mean, we can see the way that the world is these days. And if people were able to really harness these skill sets, really, they would be able to have so much more acceptance for each other, acceptance for themselves, be able to really try to understand where someone is coming from and ultimately convey their message as well in a different way. And I think it would just bring so much more harmony and peace to the world.
Totally agree. So, if you had one action step that you could leave listeners with right now today, as soon as this episode ends, as soon as they take their headphones out, to start making whatever change they're trying to make in their life just a little bit easier, what would it be?
I would say to really have compassion for yourself. I think that that would be the biggest thing. I know for myself on my own journey, I was definitely my harshest critic, and that was always what I knew and what I was used to. And what we resist persists. And so it makes things so much harder. And especially when we really want to change, when we're really pushing for that, we can get so hard on ourselves for why isn't this happening faster? Or why, like, this should have happened years ago, or whatever it might be. So just to really, and it is an action step in a sense of just, really be kind to yourself and be compassionate and hold those parts of you that are pushing yourself even further and kind of shaming yourself or whatever it might be. But really give yourself that grace, because ultimately, in order for anything to alchemize and for anything to really shift, we have to first accept it. And so allowing yourself to give yourself that acceptance is, and compassion, I think, is really key. And then from there, you'll be amazed, at least I know in my own journey, from there, how quickly things can shift once we get to that level with ourselves.
Before you go, I just have to ask you for a huge favor. If you enjoyed or got value from this episode at all, then take a moment and leave a rating and review in the podcast app that you're listening or watching on. If you like the show and you want me to continue to create more episodes and be able to get awesome guests that will help make changing your life easier, then this is the best way you can show support. You can leave a 5-star review on iTunes like Eliza K, who said, "This podcast is both warm and inviting, but real enough to push and motivate me." Thank you, Eliza. Or you can be like Dalton, who said, "Paul is an amazing host and his podcast is a must listen." Thank you, Dalton. And thank you to all of the over 100 people who have taken the time to rate and review this show 5 stars on iTunes, or the dozens who have left 5-star reviews on Spotify. It only takes a minute, and it helps me grow, it helps me reach a new audience, and it lets me know that this is helping someone, which just feels good. All you have to do is go to the show page of whatever app you're listening to and hit the little 5 stars. Or go to the comments section on YouTube and boom, that's it. And if you really want to show love, take a screenshot when you do it and tag me in your stories on social media at Change Made Easy, and I'll shout you out in an upcoming episode. All right, go leave that rating, and I'll see you back here every Tuesday and Thursday with new episodes of Change Made Easy.